Okay, good afternoon, everyone. Thanks for joining with us with Rapido Cloud Solutions. This is our webinar with a large aspiration on the startup and IPR scene. My name is Avinash Kulkarni. I head the enterprise sales. Thanks to all the attendees. Maybe you will be on mute all just to allow first the panelists to speak. So today's panelist would be Mr. Amit Gupta, who's the founder CEO from Rapido Cloud Solutions. He'll be the moderator. He'll speak initially for 2-3 minutes and then he'll moderate the session. The primary speakers will be Mr. CK Shastri, the founder and managing director of Intense Technologies, a product company from Hyderabad. Mr. Joyce Ray, who's head of India business in Tally Solutions. Tally is the largest accounting package product possibly in the world. Then we have Mr. Prakash Ramnath, who's AVP Global Marketing and Partnerships from Ramco Software. A couple of requests. We have a Q&A box where we will take your questions and we'll allow some selected participants to speak out, maybe around 6 or 7 questions, considering that this is a 60 minutes show. But I promise you that you will get a written response. Whoever has asked a question will write back to you with inputs. It could be any question on startups. It could be any question on the startup ecosystem. So we will answer those. In case you have joined the Zoom link directly, because I had pasted the link on LinkedIn as well as WhatsApp, please do type your name and phone number. A cross section of the people in the audience would be innovation heads from large organizations, founders and CXOs of startups in India. I had requested Egbert, he's there in the crowd. He's my friend and as well as somebody who passionately supports startups to enter the European market. He's based in Hague, Netherlands. I had invited Mr. Madan Padki and Thai members. I hope they might be here. I'm not sure. Similarly, Mr. Harvinder Minas, who leads a startup group called as Digital Futurist, about 280 startups spread across India. Uttara here in Bangalore, she supports a lot of startups in Karnataka and works with Karnataka government. Maybe she'll be here. A lot of AWS India managers. Pawan Talla, who's a US-based incubator and a VC himself. Startup customers of Rapido and students with entrepreneurship dreams. Lastly, we will have a small poll of 3 questions, which we request you to answer at the end of the show. So I hand over the session. So agla awaz hoga, Mr. Amit Gupta se.
Hi, good evening, guys. Thanks, Avinash, for the intro. And special thanks for panelists and welcome attendees to take out time for this webinar. One of the most important questions, that I constantly hear from early startups is, given the current pandemic, is this the right time to start and convert idea into business? So I'll share some stats on how investments have shaped up specifically around pandemic here, right? So if you look at 2020, about 900 plus companies have raised total of close to $12 billion. And this is just last year that we're talking about. 11 startups have reached a 1 billion valuation in terms of, and they have become unicorns. 3 verticals which have, hogged the space are edtechs, fintechs, and B2B or enterprise techs as they are being called now. These are the top 3 funded areas. Fintech has topped the M&A chart and grabbed the highest number of funding deals in the space if you look at 2020 alone. In 2021, in Q1 itself, about $4.5 billion has been raised and over 5 startups have become unicorns. That itself tells us a story that India is scaling at a very fast space in the Indian context. So I believe that innovation is still the key. The most important question that you should ask as a founder is, if you have an idea, does it solve a problem? And can you solve it at scale in a cost-effective fashion? I think this is the most important question that you need to ask and answer as a founder. Second thing which I have experienced myself is create a simple MVP and take it to market fast. A lot of times in our aspiration to build a perfect product, we spend a lot of time building it, right? And the market validation takes a lot of time and we burn money doing it. Another very good idea to validate your idea is make a funding pitch, irrespective of whether you're looking for a funding or not. It will also validate because a lot of early investors are talking to hundreds of companies and they will give you an idea of around validation, which will build and boost your confidence. I think B2B is a space where, founders typically always think that, VC money will not be there. But given that enterprise tech is the second largest area where fundings have come in, uh, focus there, right? Because businesses will buy, and the bigger enterprises are realizing the need to partner with young startups to bring agility to their business. So that is definitely an area that you should focus on. If you're a mid to late stage startup, the most relevant question which I also encounter is, how do I retain talent, scale business, and protect my idea, right? So a startup which is already generating a revenue, I don't think revenue and funding is a problem, right? Your aspiration versus your working capital might be a problem, but revenue may not be a problem, right? So apart from growing the revenue, I think your focus should be on defining and measuring metrics across all departments. I think that's very, very close to me. I think that is something which we have brought in Rapider in a big way in last 12 months. You need to have a clear definition of business, customer, functional, team, and learning goals across departments. Uh, Take help from leadership and business coaches. Rapider, as founding team of Rapiders, we have done that. They add a lot of value to help you. And our biggest learnings have happened by involving these coaches in our journey. I believe that the focus should be whether your organization is ready to address scale, and working from home is a new reality which adds its own complexities. So matrix will help you kind of define that, right? So moving on to Rapider, we have engaged with startups. We are about 4.5 years old company at this stage, and in last 4 years we have engaged with a lot of startups on their tech journey. uh, Being an exclusive AWS partner, we can bring a lot of best practices as well as implementation knowledge to cloud deployments. DevOps is a very sought after and expensive skill if you are in the IT tech space. We do provide complete continuous integration, continuous deployment, and as well as consulting on micro architecture uh, and implementation around that as well. We can help run and manage your entire infrastructure too. If that is the help where you need. So these are some costs where you can potentially save, your headcounts and bring a partner who can, cover up for you. If you're already on AWS, we can also help audit to make sure, are you ready for scale? If you're an enterprise space, there are very interesting programs that AWS has come up with, which is around ISV track. If it's independent software solution that you have for enterprise, that requires you to clear functional and technical requirements to be considered as certified ISV partner of AWS. If I'm not mistaken, Ramco is already part of it. We can help you with the framework definition and execution to get you ready for FTR as well. And last but not the least, as a founder of a product company, at a right stage, you also need to start protecting your IP, right? Whether it is through copyrights, trademarks, patents, because it not just protects your IP, but also contributes towards your evaluation as you move forward. So those were some initial thoughts, which I wanted to share with the attendees here. I invite our first speaker, Mr. C.K. Shastri, Chairman and Managing Director of Intense Technologies. They have customer experience platform as a product, having customers across 45 countries and over 70% market share in South Asia. Over to you, Mr. Shastri.
Hey, thanks, Amit. Thanks for your kind words. And I think let me share my screen. Hello, everyone. Thank you all very much for coming and attending this interesting session set up by Amit and Avinash from Rapidair. I am one of those Jurassic age entrepreneur, probably not the real new age guys. I founded this company I started in software in 97, which is about almost 25 years now. It is 25 years. We, at that point in time, we were one of those crazy bunch of guys who wanted to get into the enterprise software space. I hope I'm being audible.
Yes, sir, it is audible. Yeah, yeah.
Yeah. I'm one of those crazy bunch of guys where the whole country was going toward the services side. We were those crazy guys who wanted to build enterprise software and put India on the global map. We never had a venture fund ecosystem at all. Imagine 97, 98. I don't know if there was any VC who was there in India who could look at a company to fund. And we had no choices but go to a bank. Bank would say that you want me to pay you crore money for the CD. What you're giving me, 30 rupees CD. So those were the challenging times when we were there, and we're talking about shell account on the internet. Internet was not fully there. Bandwidth was the dial-up bandwidth and all of that time. To cut the long story short, I had no choice but to go IPO in 1999, and it was a small 7.2 crores IPO to raise money to scale my business. Anyway, the story is 99 was the biggest internet boom era. Stock opened at 42, did not stop till 720. What goes up unnaturally comes down naturally. And all I can tell you guys is that it's success or it's a journey by itself. You see a lot of ups and downs, and how do you keep your focus to take it to the next level, and how do you overcome it? I'll take all the questions. I can tell you that I have made a lot of mistakes in my journey, and probably I'll be able to tell you those mistakes, what you shouldn't do while you go. I'll just take you quickly through what we guys are today. We have come a long way. Put my neck out, and had a fantastic team to keep us afloat and bring us to where we are today. We have customers in 45 countries. We are leaders in insurance, telecom, and currently even we are adding a lot of banking customers. We have Fortune 500 names. I'll show you some of the names in the next slide. Today, we onboard more than 2.5 million customers every day. We send out more than 200 million communications. A lot of these statistics. These are some of our marquee names. Who's there in the telecom space, in the banking space, in the insurance space. Our journey, actually, it was so difficult to get these big logos and big names, primarily because, mission critical. Nobody would want to bet on a small company. We had to get ourselves grinded and go through the system integrators like the IBMs, the Infosys, the TCS of the world. We also were being certified by various things to keep in pace with the cloud world and keep in pace with the technology. We are up to date. We are AWS and Azure compatible for cloud. So what do we do for our living is the entire customer life cycle: buy, use, and grow. This is the customer life cycle in which we have a play right from customer onboarding, digital engagement, financial reconciliation, B2B, B2C, portals, analytics, a whole lot of them. As we went on progressing to keep the thing, we are currently brought all our solutions into a single code and platform, the low code platform, where we're trying to talk about data virtualization, BPM, bots, the whole lot of stuff. Our bread and butter has been on these 4 quadrants: acquire, analyze, engage, and experience. Maybe you can visit my website, www.10stech.com or intents.in. So to keep because enterprise customers require a lot of branding and marketing, we got recognized by the likes of Gartner, Forrester, and as Amit and Avinash were mentioning, how do we protect your IP? So we have filed some patents, we have copyrights for most of our products, and this is about it. I Today we are about 450 people and growing. Uh, I leave the floor to the next speaker, and I'll be good to take questions, any questions you have on, retention, technology upgradation. How do you keep yourself up to the thing? How did you get your first customer to, how did you see the difficult times? So all that, we saw 2008 meltdown. We are seeing the COVID now. So we have experienced all these in our journey. Thank you very much, everyone, and I look forward to your questions.
So thank you, Mr. Shastri. I'll have a couple of follow-up questions or observations, right? I think I completely agree with the Jurassic Park analogy, right? I started off in '96, and I'll just share a recent experience. We have a stack of DVD discs lying, and my daughter, who is studying in grade 11, came to me and said, "Dad, we need to figure out a way to use this." And I said, "Where? Which device?" Right? And there was not even a single device at home which will accept DVD, right? So I can completely
Absolutely.
So one question, when you say that 450 people today, and I'm sure that all of them are working mostly from home, right?
Yeah, 100% from home, Amit.
100% from home, right? So what helps you keep team focused, Mr. Shastri? What is one mantra which is helping you?
One is the innovative work what you do, and the what I have seen in terms of productivity and collaboration, it is much better in a work from home environment, because one, you don't have too much of time and too much of space to gossip among themselves. The second thing is, anything new, innovation, new thing, keeps the guys motivated and going forward. And some very prestigious projects which we have landed of global and national importance, that also keeps them going to see that we successfully deliver that such national important projects. And the third thing is, of course, we have town halls and we have stand-up meetings, and there are a lot of fun and the other things also between their teams and groups. So it is a very vibrant environment which we are providing despite being working from home, and I guess that's what is working for us. And we hope that in fact a lot at the top level we are thinking to continue this as long as the longer it is possible, probably have a 30% rotation basis from work from office.
Sure. Thank you, Mr. Shastri. So I'll take the opportunity to invite our next guest on panel, Mr. Joyce. He's India Business Head for Tally. Tally was formed in 1986 and has over 1.8 million customers currently. Let's hear from Mr. Joyce.
I'll just quickly share my screen. Yeah. I hope the PowerPoint on the screen is visible to everyone.
Yeah.
Just a quick confirmation. Thank you. Thank you so much, Amit and Avinash and the entire Rapido team for inviting me on this webinar. Really excited to be here amongst a very, very eminent panel, and really loved the way Mr. Shastri described his journey so far, and great things to learn from there. So I am here representing a fairly well-known name, and a name which is which is almost synonymous with accounting and compliance for the small and medium businesses in the country. So I'll very quickly take you through what has been the journey of this of Tally Solutions and the brand and the product. But before I take you through the formal presentation, one or two very quick observations. Tally Solutions in the software space in India at least was designed, conceptualized, and is run as a very dedicated product company. So we've been around for now 3 decades and completely focused on product sales. And our mantra to scale and build up the business basically is built on the core philosophy of building a very high quality product from India. And the second thing to also state is that we operate in a segment which is a tough segment in its own relative way of speaking, and it's a segment which for a very long time has been plagued by issues related to piracy, automation, challenges to adoption. So it's a very deep involvement space, and that's something which I just wanted to share before I started on the formal presentation. This is how the company's history so far has panned out. Started in '86, perhaps coinciding with the very first basic interpreter based personal computers which the government actually started manufacturing, and computers had just entered schools. If I'm not mistaken, Oracle had just set up office in India, and that's the time that the journey of the company actually started. I don't know how many of us can recall, but the earliest versions of the product were actually DOS based, and very similar to the Lotus 123 spreadsheet packages that were available on 5 1/4 floppies. I'm pretty sure. I mean, these go back beyond DVDs also, Amit. So they are really ancient. But that's really how the product actually evolved. And a big singular point of inflection in 2005 with the government implementing VAT across the country, and then of course 2017 when one of the single largest changes in the indirect taxation landscape happened in the country with the implementation of GST. And very recently, we have, after almost 13 years, decided to change the look and feel of the product, decided to change a lot of the user interfaces with a product called Tally Prime. And as we move forward, the big challenge for us is to basically work with our customers to take them forward on this journey of connected services. So that is really the next decade of product development that we foresee and that we wish to work on. Again, will involve a lot of deep impact on customer behavior, on the way we do businesses, the way we run our businesses, and the way we do our business. So keeping that in mind, the design, like I said, from day one, the product and the philosophy was designed for scale. And currently, in the accounting part of the small and medium enterprises segment, we are about 2/3 of the market right now. We have 2 million licensed customers across the globe, who in turn give us about 7 million users, and it's a fairly wide footprint. In fact, the Indian diaspora definitely has grown up with the product. All second and third generation entrepreneurs from Hong Kong to the US continue to use the product in some or the other form, and swear by it. And also, one of the largest generators of employment, if I can put it in that way, in that sense, because there is a whole group of people who find their employability greatly enhanced through the knowledge of Tally. In terms of what we believe in, which basically drives us towards the next day, keeps us awake, and is also part of our philosophy. And all of these are incidentally part of our, these are not really points on the PowerPoint, to be honest. These are things which we share with folks during their induction. These are points which we share with our engineering team as part of the Tally way of engineering. This is what we share with our product management teams as part of the Tally way of managing a product, creating a product, developing a product. And last but not the least, this is also something which forms part of the Tally way of sales, right? And which is basically built on speed, flexibility, reliability, and simplicity. I think before the call started, I heard several of my fellow panelists share that one of the first things that an entrepreneur today does when he starts his business or in the initial months is to basically start recording transactions using a copy of Tally. And what this tells us is that our belief, our design belief, is that the product should be used by or usable by the owner, by an accountant, by an existing employee, by a new employee, just about everyone else. And what that truly means for us is that we are designing for the user, keeping the user in mind. We are not designing because we love to write code. So that is a very, very critical part of our design process. And we've been following it very, very ruthlessly over the years, which is not to say that we haven't gone wrong, which is not to say that we haven't gone off track. But we have always come back to first principles. And even today, for small businesses, the flexibility that the product offers, the reliability, the downtimes are absolutely zero. You will still see customers using a version of Tally on Windows XP, and they're happy about it. So that is something which is kind of kept us in the minds of our customers in their day-to-day work, and also keeps driving us as we go forward. And in terms of what is basically probably differentiating us from SaaS-based products which are available globally or within the country, and of course other products which are in the same category, is this attention to details on areas which are non-functional, right? And this is where we need and we also follow this, we also practice it as a group, as a bunch of people who believe in the philosophy. We spend a lot of time basically understanding and defining very small nuances in day-to-day business, which are then built into the product, and we call these NFRs. So they actually have nothing to do with features or functionality, but they are just small things which delight the user, which make his life easy, and which tell him that at the end of the day, whatever he is doing is really the best practice. The software is just there to help him do his job better. Building for scale. Sometimes when you work for Tally and you travel and you're on this very, very lonely highway somewhere in Upper Assam, and you stop at a petrol pump to refuel the car, and you go to pay your bill, and the guy behind the billing counter has a recognizable interface where he's entering the bill, and that is a Tally interface. And then you recognize and realize that the reach of the product is almost, in comparable terms, similar to many FMCG products in the country. Yeah, and that really is something that we drive very, very passionately. We are designed and we exist for driving scale. Yeah, because for us, the driving belief is that it is a winner takes all category, and therefore we have to ensure that there is majority share. And of course, I mean, the delightful experiences don't come from products only, they also come from engagements. We have always been a partner-led organization. In that sense, we have never sold a single license directly. So we are actually not in the direct sales model. We are in the partner-led model. And that is a philosophy which has basically driven great friendships and relationships over a period of time. I'll just share a small kind of a tidbit here with the audience. Many of our partners who have spent nearly 25 years with us in the Tally business actually started out as customers. Yeah. So they started out as customers and they became so enamored with the product that they actually traveled to Bangalore and kind of started speaking to Mr. Bharat Goenka on what exactly is his vision, what is he trying to do, and they got so attached to the product that they continued on this journey. They continue to be users, but they have become our partners for the last almost 2.5 decades. And there are literally hundreds of such cases, and these some of them have also become, in that sense, lighthouses of knowledge for us on the domain, and they're almost in that sense virtually consultants today for this segment at least. So something interesting that I thought I'll just kind of share. And my very last slide, which I believe will continue to drive us over the next 2 decades, basically putting the customer first. We do things like customer centricity, where at a given frequency, once in a quarter, the whole organization, everyone from top to bottom, from left to right, across all 19 regional offices, and the entire organization goes and meets the customer. Yeah. And it takes a lot of time to collate and get the feedback back in. And it is everyone's responsibility that if you've met an unhappy customer, if you've met an irate customer, go back, address the problem, talk to the customer. If you don't know something, go back and tell him, I don't know, but I'll get somebody who knows. Yep. So just a small thing that we do, and I'm definitely sure, I'm definite about the fact that there are several practitioners of this philosophy, not only on the panel, but also in the audience. And I can guarantee you, this is definitely something which will give benefits in the long run. I spoke about partners. We grow when partners grow. So all our effort is basically in ensuring that the customer is happy and that our partners grow. If they grow, we grow. And of course, we continue to build products which are helping our customers adopt connected services better and better. And that's really what we are planning to do in the next decade or so. So with that very short, brief introduction, I just wanted to end it here and hand it back over to Amit. And once again, thank the Rapido team and the entire panel for giving us this opportunity to talk on this webinar. Thank you.
Thank you, Mr. Joyce. I think it's a wonderful story, right? Especially around the partner build strategy, right? Yeah. I was not aware that it is all through partner ecosystem and there's no license which is sold directly, right? So there's a great GTM strategy which is sitting right there. So a couple of follow-up questions that I would have is 3 decades, yep. Right? And coming from a DOS background, different, yep. World altogether. I yes. Remember when I was studying in college, early 90s, I bought my first PC, mm-hmm. And it amazes me the configuration of that PC was like X386 with 256 MB yes. RAM. That's and a right. 40 MB hard disk.
Yep.
Kind of a, so technology has been evolving at a very fast pace, right? How has Tally been able to bring technological advancements and especially over last 10 years, I think it has changed at an extremely rapid pace.
Yeah.
How
That's
has that affected Tally?
So to answer that question, Amit, the fate of Tally is very closely linked to the fate of the SME segment in this country, and therefore a lot of the things that one sees in the product and the evolution of the product is linked to the SME category and their behavior and how they have adopted technology over the years. I'll give you a couple of examples. So the 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 prevalence of LAN as an environment, as a data transmission environment, is fairly common today. I mean, you almost ignore it. You walk into an office today, uh, a LAN network is something that is part of the office infrastructure. You don't even ask your administrator whether LAN cabling is done, whether switches are there, whether routers are there, etc., etc. But we had a time, and we had a decade of development where the simple task of entering data by multiple users was a challenge because there was no LAN.
Yeah, true.
Yeah, and a lot of software folks today will probably not even recognize those times.
Yeah, those
right?
are not problems of today anymore.
Those are not
all, right?
not problems of today. Yeah. So we had to make a choice. We could either wait for the tech to come in and then build a multi-user license, or we could go to a user and say, hey, this is how a multi-user should work. It requires you to do LAN cabling, unfortunately. Now it is up to you. If you see value in it, well, take the jump, get the cabling done, and it's going to help you. And we believe that we may have in some ways contributed to the small businesses, our medium businesses, aggressively adopting LAN and
Online, yeah.
exactly and embracing the concept of a local area network to ensure that the multi-user environment from a commercial transactional perspective came alive. So this is one example to kind of address your question. The other being, of course, this great external push that happened because of VAT coming in and GST coming in, basically ensured or pushed a lot of businesses into adopting connected solutions. And you have a whole slew of those solutions today. So you have e-invoicing, you have e-way bill, you have the GST returns, and all of these are connected services. And that's the second wave, or the second big opportunity that we are observing today, that within the product you are able to do all those things, and therefore it's something that we are in that sense ready with to serve customers.
Sure. Thank you so much for sharing those insights, Mr. Joyce. Our next guest on the panel is Mr. Prakash Ramnath, AVP Global Marketing and Partnerships, Ramco System. Ramco Systems is a part of a $1 billion Ramco group and is one of the segment leaders in HR payroll ERP. Over to you, Mr. Prakash.
Thank you so much, Amit, Avinash, and the entire Rapido team for having me here, for giving this opportunity. And thank you, Mr. Shastri, Joyce, for sharing your journey. It's been truly inspiring to see how you have shaped up the organization. Hopefully, I'll do justice to that. I'll also have a couple of slides. Let me just quickly bring it up. So let me also start by putting a popular perception to rest that we are a 25-year-old startup. While we are a listed company, yes, we are scrutinized on our financials quarter on quarter, year on year. We go through the grind. But at heart, I think we still carry the startup mindset, and we want to continue with that agile mindset, continue innovating and growing. Just to give you a quick overview of where we are today, we have come a long way, and we have a long way to go as well. And we've been in the business for 25 years in the enterprise software space. Today, I think we have more than 1,000 plus enterprise customers across 35 plus countries. There is a very conscious drive to have a lot of cultural diversity within the organization, so a lot more nationalities into the team. And I think the focus is that we have both innovation and culture being the key investments from an organization trend that will kind of drive the business performance. And that's the kind of company we want to be in the marketplace. A quick view of some of our customers today, and you'll see a mix of a lot of multinationals, a lot of regional conglomerates. Basically, our product focus are into three areas. We have a HR and payroll offering. We have an aviation specific offering, and we also have our ERP offering, where our focus is more on specific segments like logistics or enterprise asset management. So you'll see a mix of customers here. So today, the focus was more in terms of what I have seen over the years, and it's been about 8 years since I joined Ramco, and around that time is when we also recently had a leadership change. We had a new team joining us, part of the new team. And if you see way back in 2013, we were about doing 70% or more than 70% of revenues from India, and the rest outside India. And today, more than 80% of revenues are coming from global markets. India is still a significant percent, but it's not 20%. So I've also seen, let's say, the average deal size kind of increase by 4 times, revenues double. So what I'm going to share with you is the kind of journey that we went through. There have been a lot of business bets we had to take, some strategic calls, and probably I'm going to reflect on some of them and see if that can help you as well. And I think these are some things that really shaped up, and these are sometimes driven directly by the leadership and sometimes by the CEO himself, top down. So first thing on the list is in terms of, for us, what is a segment we want to focus on? And traditionally, we have been in the small and mid-market space, while if you look at a product market fit, we realized that our enterprise software had the depth from an enterprise space perspective. So one of the tough calls we had to take was to stop focusing on that small mid-market segment. We had, let's say a channel sales team, then the enterprise team. We had all the structures that are possible there, and we had to put specific guardrails and yardsticks in place, saying, okay, if it's HR and payroll, let's go after only 2,000, 3,000 plus employee size. We go after a specific revenue size. I think that was a tough call for an organization, but I think looking back, that's the best thing we did, because then we were able to drive some sort of product experience fit with the market, and more and more enterprises started appreciating the depth and the capabilities of the product. The second element I want to talk about is on focus. I think broadly, when you take a product to the market, there is a passion to be everything to everyone else, right? But at least everyone else you define by a segment, you still want to be everything to the customer. In reality, it doesn't work out. You have to find out what you are good at and focus on that something that really drives value for our customer. For us, if I look back, let's say about 6 or 7 years back, we launched our HCM as a product. So we typically went to the market and we said we can do hire to retire. And over a period of 2-3 years, we realized that 80% of our customers and revenues were coming from our payroll offering, while in turn we were investing 80% of our product investments on building strategic HR solutions, say a recruitment or a talent management. It doesn't make sense. So one of the tough calls we took is we will not focus on strategic HR. We will only focus on operational HR and payroll. And that was about 4 years back. And today, I think if we are recognized for our payroll offering globally by a lot of multinational customers, that's one of the reasons. So I think focus is very critical. This has helped us in other product offerings as well, whether it is aviation, whether it is logistics. We have stuck to what we are really good at, to the segment that really appreciates it. So what is CTB and RTB? And this is something you can have different terminologies for it. Within Ramco, we call it change the business and run the business, right? And you will always choose something which is very urgent over something which is very important. And from a Ramco perspective, we have always looked at both that can coexist, but would require definitive and differential investments. You need to always have a CTB team or change the business team that's always looking forward and looking at emerging technologies, what are the innovations, how your product will be disrupted by competition, and building upon that. While the RTB team focus on ensuring your operational engines are running, fueled, and the operations are up. I think this is something that we spotted early on. Today, for example, we have an innovation lab in Singapore funded by the Singapore government, who's driving a lot of the CTB initiatives for the organization. I think this is something that we go through day in and day out in recognizing performance. And what I mean by red apples, and you might be wondering what is red apples. Again, there could be many analogies here. Typically, in a team, you will have red apples who are performing exceptionally well. You could also have green apples which are performing in a mediocre way. And the problem with the bell curve like performance management is, you kind of over appreciate the mediocre performing employee and under appreciate the red apples. So some of the tough calls that we took, and we said we have to kind of exceptionally reward the red apples who are contributing more. So, why not, let's say, a 40% increment to red apples and let's say 10% increment to the average worker.
I think
right?
that's a really good idea, Prakash, right? Because typically all organizations do that, but they don't call it out specifically, right? There are always 2-3% of top performers which are looked at very differently. Also, Prakash, one humble request. I think 5:30 is when we log off. So another 2 minutes, and then we will open it up for audience for questions as well. Thank you so much.
Thank you, Amit. Thank you so much. So I think it's important that we exceptionally recognize the high performers. And it's always good to have a small mix of cross-functional teams. In our case, we always have a mix of business, marketing, product teams coming together, taking up specific challenges there. And that is something that has really helped well. One thing that we've learned early on is it's better to hire for cultural fit than the job fit. Because the cost of a wrong hire is almost 10x. It's not just the hire themselves, but it's also the extended team. I couldn't kind of double down on it given the time constraints, but most of you could relate to it, why the cultural fit is very important on that. Second, as a product company, we were very clear we are not going to have a huge sales army, and which meant to some extent we have a very lean sales team. Like Mr. Joyce mentioned, we also have a huge network of partners, and rather we focused on building a great brand, and we have inbound methodology driving, let's say, a digital marketing led sales. So by the time the sales had a first conversation, there was brand awareness and purchase intent already in the customer's mind. And that really helped us scale up globally from an organization perspective. Purple curve is a term popularized by Seth Godin. It is basically how do you stand out in the crowd? And I think for us, from a messaging standpoint, we were very clear that we differentiate ourselves with innovations, whether it is, let's say, facial recognition, voice-based inputs, or AI ML, we were probably early on to lap up these technologies and imbibe into the enterprise software. And I think that was our purple cow and continues to be our purple cow in our messaging to the market. And that really helped us. There will always be an internal urge to do and build everything. But like I think my earlier speakers alluded to, you can focus on one thing and the rest you can always partner. And I think this helps the ecosystem also to build up. So we have a huge network of ecosystem partners and startups that we are working with that can complement our offering. And last but not the least, just to kind of reiterate what Mr. Joyce had mentioned, I think your customer is your best marketing department. Nothing beats that. That's priceless. So having that investment and relationship drive with your customer for advocacy is the best thing you can do to scale your organization. On that note, I'll bring it to a close. Amit. I hope it's 2 minutes. Thank you.
Thank you so much, Prakash. Powerful statement, right? 25-year-old startup, right? So it basically brings the culture of the startup in the place. So one question, I know Avinash has been kind of doing a time check on me, but one quick question for you. How important, at least for early startups, is to build the services revenue first before they foray into the products area, just to create sustainable business for themselves?
It is definitely a balance between both because one, by implementing and supporting your own product, you realize whether the product is deployable, the product is ready to scale. So you will have to go through that. And of course, until your subscription reaches a threshold where you can sustain yourself, you need to have services revenue in place. So it is always a balance. For us, we still have a mix of services and subscription, but yes, the plan is to kind of scale the subscription in the long term.
Thank you, Mr. Prakash. So Avinash, I believe there are some
Yeah.
questions and you wanted to, over to you, Avinash.
Yeah. Surendra had asked the question on how fast did Mr. Shastri get the first adoption. So I'll allow Surendra to ask this question now. Surendra, I think I have unmuted you.
Yeah, Mr. Shastri, it was really amazing as far as your journey when I was looking at what you were talking about Intents. I wanted to just check what were the challenges and how soon or how much time did it take for you to crack the first deal for Intents?
That way, I was very fortunate. Probably that's what I had a very big project which I was bidding. I put everything on at stake. I didn't have money even for bidding to the project. That is the earnest money deposit. That was a document imaging and document management requirement. This is for a huge government project called the Computer Aided Registration Department. They wanted to digitize all the documents, properties, and the entire computerization. And it was a favorite project of the then IT savvy Chief Minister Chandrababu Naidu. We not only got our first client and some seed money to run our business. It was 214 location implementation, and we did it at a clockwork thing those days. Like my co-panelist said, we had SCSI drives to put in, and it was a nightmare to install all these machines. We had aimed for that particular target, and what we did is we developed the software, customized it to the registration department to every extent possible, managed to see that there are a whole lot of things like duplex scanning, simplex scanning, sorting, a whole lot of things which are required for it. And it became such a famous thing that we were almost there on every newspaper, every television channel, because Babu was a media savvy guy. He got us the marketing bucks, and that's how we could actually get to an IPO.
Okay. quite a great experience to share. Thanks, Mr.
Thanks, Surinder. Thanks for asking this question. I think we will go to the next set of questions. Egbert from Netherlands, I had invited him to speak about, maybe he could take a few seconds to just introduce himself and ask the question. Egbert? Egbert, you are unmuted. You can go ahead and ask the question, Egbert. Okay, 1 minute. Egbert, can you hear us? No. Okay. Sridhar is asking questions. I'll just unmute that.
You hear me now?
Yeah, go ahead.
Okay, yeah, that's because I have two computers and one doesn't have sound, and
Okay.
so I tried to change it, and then Avinash changed it back. So, but it's good to be among other Jurassic Park figures. It was really interesting in learning your journey. I remember that I had in the old days, I got in my research program, a hard disk, 5 megabytes. And my friend, who's now a professor, said to me, Egbert, 5 megabytes, you will never get that filled in your lifetime. And now we know this one picture is just more than 5 megabytes. So I'm happy to be here. I'm one of the co-founders of World Startup and Frank and the Becks, and we are a global platform for entrepreneurs on the impact side, and especially here because we found out that a lot of, let's say, early companies, so later startups, scale-ups, as we call them in the Netherlands, they need someone with, let's say, 20 years corporate experience, C-level experience. But the problem is, where can you find them? Most people won't leave their nice job in a very nice, well, company which does pretty well. And it's risky if you step into, if there's no round B or C, then you need a new job. That's, you bought a house with a mortgage, you have to pay tuition for your children. But we have a lot of people with Jurassic Park figures, I would say, with a lot of experience. And we have found there let's say it's kind of scouting or reconnaissance, or what do you want to call it, for companies outside Europe to join, to come over and don't spend that much money, but just find someone who knows the business and can help you on the spot finding customers and do the new business development with you. That's what we do with Frank and the Becks, which is going pretty well actually, and which is it's just a kind of success fee based, but also success fee based business model for scaling up companies.
Thank you. Thanks, Egbert. I now ask Sridhar to speak. Sridhar, you had posted some questions, so can you try now?
I think Sridhar has mentioned I can't speak. I'm not sure. I can take the question. The question is for
please, Prakash. Yeah.
Sridhar, I think if your question is regarding how do you look at security from cloud-hosted applications, at Ramco, we host our applications on any of the cloud service providers that our customers want. So customers want AWS or Azure or Oracle Cloud or Google Cloud. We are agnostic from that perspective. And all the cloud security related guardrails are taken care by the cloud service providers themselves. I hope that answers the question. Thank you.
Yeah, that does. And there are no more questions in the Q&A box. Amit, do you want to ask any question, or we administer the phone?
No, I think I'm good for now.
Okay, Great. Shankar, can you bring up the poll? We have this 3-question poll. We just wanted some feedback from all the attendees, participants. Can you just take your buttons and maybe press it? Each question will be displayed for 10 seconds. Okay, Shankar, are you displaying the next question? Okay, Shankar, maybe the next question.
Ten seconds also look quite long when you're waiting for the poll to finish.
Okay, thank you. Thank you, Shankar. And it was a short 3-question poll. So thanks a lot to every attendee, the speakers. Just in case you need to write back to us or call us, these are Punit's and my coordinates. Please do write to us or call us. These are the phone numbers and the email IDs. We hope you enjoyed this event. A lot of thank you to all the attendees, and my special thanks to Mr. Shastri, Mr. Joyce Ray, and Prakash Ramnath from Ramco. Thanks a lot for being here, and it's a privilege to have hosted you all, and we hope we'll collaborate more with each other. Thank you, Amit.
Thank you very much for having us. Thank you.
Thank you. Thank you so much, everybody.
Thank you, everyone.
Thanks.